The second analysis that I've seen done has been around the development of a feed-based investment program, particularly for Southern Australia. This is a multi-RDC, multi-research organisation collaboration designed to increase the rate of improvement of forage crops for the Southern Australian livestock industries. The analysis of this was kindly provided to me by MLA and represents the work of Andrew Alston, Rob Banks and Ag Econ Plus. In this case, the costs that were modelled were the R&D costs directly, which were established and estimated consultatively amongst those parties and relate to 2012 to 2017. The co-investment costs that come from the research organisations, including their in-kind contributions, and the implementation costs for these technologies to actually be put in place by red meat producers in the future. So quite a thorough analysis of costs, and the benefits that were seen to relate from this were changes in enterprise profitability and quantitated against industry data from Holmes and Sackett, livestock numbers as a direct output themselves. The rate of adoption was benchmarked against the top 20% of producers known through other data sets, and the probability of research success benchmarked directly against historical records for RD and E projects in the MLA portfolio. So my comment there is, really a very sensible and thorough analysis of where these benefits might accrue and how reliable they are. Attribution of benefits, of course, is a key issue here when you start talking about who are the real investors and how will we do this analysis. And in this particular case, the analysis was done relative to the investor MLA. So this table summarises 3 programs along with 1 project area in each program. The first being pasture breeding and evaluation, the second productive and sustainable pastures, and the third grazing management and productive systems. From that one investor's point of view, their investment of $1.1 million per annum is likely to build to yield a net present value of $149 million over 30 years for a balanced portfolio of higher and low risk investments. The parametric analysis shows that they're able to generate both pessimistic and optimistic scenarios that have been put forward. The types of social and environmental benefits that were predicted to accrue to the community were increased farmer confidence as a result of more diverse production options on farm, and secondly, lower methane intensity as a result of faster growth rates of ruminant livestock. The third body of work I want to tell you about is work we're doing ourselves in CSIRO at the moment, and this is all in the context of trying to find a balance between the work that we do on farm and off farm. And this is work that's being completed in collaboration between ourselves, Vic DPI and the Centre of International Economics. It builds on value chain analyses CIE has presented before, and as I understand it, not being an economist, takes a partial equilibrium approach and allows us to test the scenarios of a 1% increase in productivity at each of the steps along a beef value chain, which is identified here in the diagram on the right. And so what that allows us to do is firstly say, where would we as the CSIRO investors be able to get our maximum bang for our R&D dollar by making investments at each point along that chain? And secondly, for long-term investors like CSIRO, how would we be best to build our human and resource capability along that supply chain to make sure that we can deliver those benefits in the long run? And out of interest, the analysis actually shows that building or increasing the range of export markets for Australian goods would certainly be the most valuable thing we do, though I do need to ask whether or not there are researchable issues there or whether there are, in fact, marketing opportunities. So for us, we're using that sort of analysis to balance our own research portfolio. So in all these cases that I've indicated here, there is publicly available information that suggests Australian R&D systems are utilising a range of economic models to guide and subsequently evaluate these investments through R&D, and indeed many of those investments have been delivered a good return on investment to producers as well as to the community at whole. Nonetheless, I have a personal fear that where we're going right at the minute is a system-wide over-reliance on economic modelling, and I believe that may drive us into a so-called streetlight effect. And this expression refers to the old joke of the drunk man looking for his car keys under the streetlight, the reason being that's where the light is best. So in the frogs analogy, I just wonder whether our princess should be looking elsewhere to find princes. So if you consider, for example, the way ARC, the Australian Research Council, kisses a lot of frogs to find new ideas and to give researchers opportunities, I think there are aspects of that system that would be valuable for us. So in my view, then, overemphasis of strategies that have worked in the past may indeed lead us to adopting too narrow a range of options for the future. Particularly, you think about if we'd done ex-ante analysis and found negative internal rates of return, does that really imply a failure, or is it in fact a strategic breakthrough? And a great example for this, in my opinion, is sheep genomics, which at the time we did the analysis, very high technology, high risk sort of program. The time we did the analysis, it looked as though it wouldn't return, but strategically it's been very valuable for the sheep industry going forward. And secondly, I think supporting industry structures, believing the assumption that everything remains the same, hence we can model it, maybe is too comforting in terms of allowing historical industry structures to survive and not challenge them going forward. Likewise, I think an overemphasis on economic modelling could lead us to a couple of other errors. One is assuming causality between independent and dependent variables, remembering that these things are in many cases just correlates, not causally related, and forgetting as a whole community that we contribute something in the order of 2% of global R&D. The remaining 98% comes from outside Australia, and we need to be harvesting that in a really aggressive way. And finally, I think that there's a risk that we will use economic modelling over putting too much emphasis on that as a veto against strategic ideas and strategies generated through scientific peer review. And I fear that we have to find the right balance here between taking some risks, listening to some people who may know about technologies, and balancing those against economic evaluations. So as a scenario, why not trial 100 new projects each year across all of the livestock sector and use scientific intuition and peer review and allow radical change in strategies? Well, if we did that and adopt something even more radical than the Australian Research Council would do, what would be our strengths and weaknesses? Well, such an idea would be excellent if we incorporated, as a policy sense, fast fail arrangements, ideas that we see quite early are not going to make it. We have to have the capacity to kill them. And the second question is, are there really 100 reasonable new ideas around the globe for us to incorporate? In the livestock area, sometimes that's a challenge. Is there really more human capability to bring to bear on these problems, even if we did have the right ideas? And I think this, again, has been mentioned 4 or 5 times at this meeting. We have a real issue going forward about human capability. And what would happen if we threw away some of the structural and social innovation structures that we already have in place in the name of delivering the benefits? The strategy would be quite destructive, I think, if we lost sight of the big goals. And they've been re-emphasised for me several times at this meeting around productivity, profitability, a social dividend and environmental sustainability. We can't compromise these. And there is a risk indeed that some of the longer term projects that we've worked on, like animal genetics, that we will compromise the critical mass needed to deliver those projects by having too much diversity. 2 more points. One, I think there's the risk that we'll establish more organisations to manage the load. I think that we have, as I've described here, already a rich and perhaps complex environment. Creating more organisations may not necessarily achieve greater efficiency. And indeed, I think one of the challenges for us is to establish conditions and arrangements that are attractive for private R&D, that whole component of our evaluation scheme that is currently a bit of a black box for us. So my answer to this scenario is, by all means, kiss more frogs, but whatever we do, let's not dismantle the structures that we've shown to increase productivity and be productive. So in summary, there is evidence, I think, that Australians have completed valuable livestock research projects, and there are valuable outcomes still in the pipeline. The governance and management challenge for livestock R&D is how to encourage a portfolio with diversity and innovation, but not draw critical mass and funds away from long-term, well-established projects. All investors, both private and public, must perceive the benefits of the R&D independent of how we model them. So I wanted to just quickly acknowledge a number of contributors. This has been a great opportunity for me to go across the livestock network, find a range of data sets, and here they are recognised. Thank you to all those people. Thanks very much.